Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast, the podcast for real estate agents absolutely everywhere. I'm Lisa B, and during this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything real estate. What's working, what's not working, AI, automation, technology, EXP Realty, and absolutely everything to do with real estate. I'll have guest speakers as well, where we'll answer your questions from the Facebook group, Let's Talk About Real Estate. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, make sure you do that now, and we'd be happy to help answering any question. And again, welcome to the show. Welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast. And today I have a very special guest. Welcome, Tim Hosking.
Yeah, hi, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. We've got a couple of different topics that we're going to talk about, which you are an expert in. You're an expert in real estate, obviously, and also these other two topics that I want to talk to you about because you've done them so well. So you've been in real estate since 1993, same as me.
Yep.
30 years. Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah, time goes by, doesn't it?
It sure does. And you specialise in the Copper Coast in South Australia.
Yeah, about an hour and a half out of Adelaide.
Yeah, right. So how's that been? So you were in a different area before, then you moved to the Copper Coast, didn't you?
Oh, so I've been in the Copper Coast now nearly 20 years.
Yeah, right. And where were you before then?
Prior to that, I was in Queensland. I've actually got an advanced diploma in electrical engineering, electrical, hydraulics, pneumatics, robotics, automation. So process is something that's sort of forefront of my mind as to how to make things go from A to Z. So that's the way my brain works. So I was up there managing an injection molding plant in Geebung, in the just south of Boondall Entertainment Centre. I moved back here after my eldest daughter has a disability that I couldn't solve the problems of, and so we came back here to check out back whether South Australia was going to be able to give the right results. And on day 4, she laughed for the first time in 2 years. And so we pulled the pin and gave up the high-paid job in Queensland and came back here and had nothing to come back to.
Wow. And
but family first.
Yeah, absolutely. So your brain works like you knock something down, rebuild it, you build processes, you think about systems and all that sort of thing.
Systems and things have got to be repeatable. Real estate's not a difficult industry.
No. Yes.
It's doing the basics and doing them over and over, making them repeatable and making them clear.
Love it. Okay. So the first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is you recently transitioned over to EXP and you make, how many sales do you do a year?
So the last probably 3 years prior to this current financial year was around the 95 to 115 per year. Currently sitting, I think, at 80.
So a lot of sales per year. So expert level in that. So how do you, if you're working in an agency and you have got that much stock, and you have a lot of stock on hand and a lot of stock, sort of going unconditional and all that sort of thing, how do you gracefully exit where you are and transition to something like EXP or to another office without losing that momentum, without losing money, without, all of that sort of thing? How do you do it?
So when I'd made I'd got to a point where I felt that I was outgrowing where I was. There was the company I was with, extremely well respected in this industry in South Australia and nationally with Harris Real Estate. They treated me fantastically the whole time I was there. I certainly don't begrudge them. Phil and the team, outstanding people. Okay. I'd also towed the line with a lot of the different things that they implemented that didn't quite work with me and how I wanted to see things done. For me, I can understand it from their perspective, and that's why I always towed the line. I'm a team player. I want to engage with my employer in such a way that I'm respectful. Okay, but it's a two-way street. And so when we got to the point where we were renegotiating and I was unhappy with the renegotiation, I'd already spoken with Dave and Cassandra Washington in the Gawler area and sounded them out, and they'd been incredibly encouraging and very transparent as to how they saw EXP for them and their high producers and high volume as well. I'd spoken to Chris Jansen and he'd spoken about different ways of doing things and right times.
Mhm.
And I tried to get my head around the idea of, well, how to, because I constantly list. There's not a gap.
Mhm.
I launched another two on Monday. I'll launch another two or three next week if all goes to plan.
Mhm.
The consumption is just endless. So how do you pick a gap? It's just really not there. I then spoke with Chris, put me in contact with James Stacey in Port Lincoln, who's again another high volume agent, and I had a good chat with him. And James is brutal. He just talks straight off the hip.
Yeah.
And I love that because I didn't want fluff and bubbles. I wanted someone to talk about really what it truly is. And
Mhm.
so we had those discussions. So I was very comfortable with the change,
Mhm.
because I don't have any doubt in my capacity. It was a matter of whether the company can deliver on their side. And
Mhm.
after talking to enough people, I believed that that was the case. I respected people. I then had the discussions, and we were talking about an October November sort of change, or over Christmas change or something. But after the discussions with my employer, that didn't respond the way I wanted. I wanted to have more control of time, and being volume based with the way the comms are set up is that the more you do, the more they pay. Well, in 5 years, 10 years time, I want to be able to ramp back and smell the roses more. Well, how can I do that if I'm still doing 100 sales a year?
Yeah.
Well, I can't by myself.
Mhm.
And I operate by myself. I don't have a PA or other extras. Okay. So there's no team Tim, it's Tim.
Mhm.
Okay. So the reality then became, well, how do I control income at that point? Because they were talking that if I was to reduce my volume, my comms would go down.
Mhm.
But I'm not comfortable with that. I believe that a client who's invited me in to look at their property in view of listing and assisting them, they're calling me in because of me,
Yes.
not because of my volume,
Mhm.
because of the expertise that I bring in.
Mhm.
I believe I'm the most experienced and the best agent in the area, but that doesn't mean that I'm the right person for every listing.
Mhm.
There will be people who connect with other agents in a way that they don't connect with me, and they become the right agent for that person. I don't want all the work.
Mhm.
I just want to be able to work at a level that I'm comfortable with. Well, if down the track that means that I'm specializing in an area and I want to reduce to 30 to 40 sales a year, well, I'm no less an agent. I
Mhm.
still walk in with all the experience, all the tricks, all the skill sets that I've built up over decades.
Mhm.
Why would I be worth any less because I'm doing less volume?
Yeah.
I'm really the same person and they want the expertise. I'm paid according to my expertise, not volume. And
Yes.
so I saw with EXP a way that I can maintain a very good income, but without having to actually sacrifice. When I get control of time, I can
Yes.
take that back and I can still get paid extremely well.
Yes.
So that when I had those discussions at the end of financial year last year, um, my wife Lisa was with me, and we met with the CEO and the head of sales, and we had these discussions, and we left. And as I crossed the road from their office, Lisa turned to me and said, "So that's it then?" I said, "Yep, that's it." Got in the car, I phoned Chris and said, "Mate, pull the pin, starting with you now." He went, "October." I went, "No, today. That's it. We're done." And he said, "Right. Well, what are you doing?" I said, "That's right. I'll send a notification through." And I was talking to the CEO that night at my former employer, and we're chatting. And I said, "You do have an email from me?" And, "What email?" And he looked at on his computer and went, "My gosh, you've resigned?" I
Mhm.
said, "Yes." And there's a strategy in there that I'd like to play out. And he said, "No, we're going to fight for you." And so they fought for me for a couple of weeks. And
Mhm.
the reality was there was nothing on the table that they were able to offer that could entice me to stay. I
Mhm.
love them for the fact they fought.
Yeah.
That was really fantastic. And they're such great people,
Mhm.
but they couldn't meet what I needed, and EXP has and will continue to meet my needs going forward. and it's surpassed what I expected. So in that regard, it's an extremely rewarding and happy change.
Good.
But with that came the strategy of, well, how do I exit out? What's the way around this? So with a great working relationship that I've had with my employer for 10 years, and I'm not when I got in real estate, as you did back 93, 94, after a year, there was 90 that did the training with me at Panorama TAFE, right? And after a year, there was only 8 of us still in the industry.
I was going to say, yeah, the dropout rate.
Turnover was horrendous.
Yes.
Of the 8, 7 of them had already moved twice,
Crazy.
whereas I was still my same person. I don't change. I'm not scared of change. Like I just say, bring on Rex. Can't wait for that to happen. I'm watching all the videos and into our change of our CRM.
Yes.
I love system changes. You put me on the edge. I like walking into situations where I'm walking in completely cold. Just bring it on. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer to be grounded, followed through my process, prepared and everything. But if you drop me in a spot, that's okay. I'll manage that. That's no problem.
Yes.
But I'd done my due diligence on EXP and I knew what I wanted and they were going to deliver and they have. So the strategy that I played out with Harris was that because of the relationship, I'm a relational agent. I work with people. Yes, I sell homes. I only sell homes for people that want me to. I never sell a home out from under someone. If they're not wanting to go and they're wanting to stay, they stay. I don't, if I brought offers in that exceeding where they want to be and then they decide that they can't part with it, I'm not claiming our comms.
No.
Why shoot your business?
No way.
No, I don't sell homes out from under people. People move when they're good and ready in the terms that they're happy with. And that builds business, that builds credibility. And so I had the runs also on the board with management of Harris, where I emailed back through and said, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to send an email. I'll CC you in that email so you can see the wording of it. And what I'd like to do is give all of my current clients the opportunity to choose what they would like to do. They're already happy with Harris. They're happy with me. Let them decide. Because I had a great business partner, Craig Costello at Harris. Great guy. I'd 10 years with him. I'd done nearly 10 years with him prior at Brock Harcourts as well. So we were very much joined at the hip as to how we worked. And so they could stay with Harris and stay with Craig. No problem. So we gave them the opportunity. All of those clients, of which I think there were 13 that were online. There was a further 25 that had sales agencies done, but they were coming to market or they were on off-market listing. And so all were given the opportunity to review their position.
And in that letter, you didn't mention where you were going. You just said,
no,
we're going to change agencies.
I'm making a change. I'm leaving Harris.
Yeah.
And I want to give you the opportunity to choose what you'd like to do, whether you would like to transition with me somewhere else, or whether you'd like to stay with Harris and Craig will look after you.
Yeah.
So that's straight out. That's respectful to Harris.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they've done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
They just weren't meeting my needs.
Yeah.
And so, and then all replied. Of the 13 that were online, 12 of them requested to make the move. I also asked for the email to be replied to both myself and the CO so that he could see it and it wasn't me doing something else. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't ring any of them. It was all done off that one email. I texted them to say there is an important email for you to read, and they all replied.
Love it.
Okay.
Yep.
Then all the others that were off market, they also all replied. All the off markets transitioned with me, all 25 or whatever there was. They all came across with me. Now, the other part of it was that once that had the findings of that had come back, I then negotiated with them a percentage that they would receive, as in the previous employer would receive as a cut from the sale of every single one. Because at the end of the day, I was working for them, with them. They own the listing, not
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was an employee, PAYG.
Yeah.
So that meant that they actually own the listing, and they could have, if they'd chosen to, just say, buy Tim.
Yeah. So can I ask, do you feel that would have been different if you were a PAYG, if you were an independent contractor? Do you feel that that would have been a different scenario?
Yeah, well, the different scenario would have been that depending on your structure within your,
Mm,
as an independent contractor, you may actually own the listings
mm.
and you're contracted to the employer. So that would be on a case by case. You'd have to assess that.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
No, just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
And I think, again, look, I'm not a fan of burning bridges.
Mm,
Um, no matter where I've been or any jobs or anything else I've ever done,
mm.
I always want to leave with a handshake where they're comfortable that,
Yeah.
okay, well, everything's been handled the correct way.
Mhm.
Now, there are circumstances where you've just got to exit, and there's only one employer that I walked from and
Mhm.
just said, no, look, we just don't gel. We
Yeah.
agreed we didn't gel, and there were words that were said that can't be taken back. And I
Mhm.
said, well, with that's the way things are sitting. I'm out. And so I walked out. But that's one out of many, many employers I've had over my lifespan.
And can I say, when we spoke about this before, you said that you went to Harris and you said we have to put the vendors first. That's the number one.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. And
that's
that
exactly.
was that was in my email to the CO, that was
Yep.
CC'd to the owner of Harris,
Yep.
to say, this, yes, I'm moving on,
Hmm.
but I took these people on. If I wasn't working in this area, you wouldn't have any of these listings.
Hmm.
That's, again, not to big note myself, but to relate the fact that these clients, I don't want to do the wrong thing by them. I don't want them dumped on someone who hasn't got their best interests at heart. I wanted them, I listed them, I want the best outcome for them,
Yes.
and I want them to choose, but they need to choose because it's their homes,
Mm.
it's their lives that are being changed through me making a move.
Yeah.
We need to put them first, and that was always the case in every discussion, yeah, of which there were many over the 10 years,
Mm.
with them, when they made a change from a marketing perspective or a process perspective. I'd say, well, hold on, I'm an hour and a half out of Adelaide. The way you're doing this, I don't see that working for me. And they'd say, look, we've heard you, Tim. Can you trial it? We would agree to massage it so that I could make it work for my clients in the way that I operate.
Yeah.
Um, but it was always client centered, and that's the way, um, we work for people. We
Yeah.
don't work properties. We work for people, and the clients have got to come first, in everything we do.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So,
There's a statement I make regularly when I'm working, when I'm doing appraisals,
mhm.
or even with buyers, and it sort of can ruffle a certain type of buyer, where I'll say to a vendor, look, I work for vendors, but I work with buyers.
Yes, agree.
And I make that distinction where someone will say, well, when they're a buyer, and they'll say, Tim, we want the answer on this. I said, well, I'm sorry, but I need to consult my vendor. Yeah,
Mm.
but you're working with me. I went, we're working for me. No, no, no.
Mm.
I'm working for my vendor,
Yeah.
and I need my vendor's instructions.
Yeah.
If a vendor gives me an instruction I don't agree with,
Mhm.
I would discuss it. But at the end of the day, I work under their instructions, and I'll abide by their instructions.
Absolutely. They're the ones that pay us, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, any other advice you would give to someone that's transitioning into
Transitioning,
that area? Yeah.
timing, I don't know that there is a right time.
There's never a good time to be pregnant. There's never a time to
No,
leave
there's never a right
office.
time. You
It's
can you
too
can
hard.
weed your numbers down. The reality is that, I've generated more income
Mm.
in what it's now, 8 months,
Mm.
9 months now, more income in 9 months than I generated the entire last year, and I've sold 30, 40 houses less.
Wow. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the
Incredible.
comms, I capped 3 months after getting in, which
Mm.
means that from the 3 month mark, I was at 100% for another 9 months,
Yeah.
um, of everything that comes in. That's Now you've got to earn it. There's no free lunch in real estate. If you're not out there pounding the footpaths, and I don't door knock. I used to. I used to door knock regularly, but
I
haven't
do it.
done that for a lot of years. I've been working this market for 20 years. I
Yeah.
don't need to door knock. I go to the supermarket and get stopped everywhere, and I'm getting asked everything from where's the market at, how do we sell, what about this, and all of a sudden I'll have 5 or 6 people standing around me, all wanting to discuss real estate. And so
Take
my
a little
kids,
soapbox with you next
yeah,
time.
exactly. Well, I dropped into a local farm implement company who I was selling a property for one of their employees, and I dropped in to sign a contract off during the day.
Mm.
And as I arrived, the owner of the company's gone, hold on, everyone, come into the boardroom. So I walk in the boardroom. I said, this is a private meeting. She went, oh, not the first bit. And she had 12 employees all in there. They all wanted to discuss real estate. I
Isn't that
mean,
funny?
that's gold, absolutely gold.
That's awesome. I don't understand the people that don't operate real estate where they live. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
where you live.
Why travel hours away
Exactly.
when
And not,
you've got people that are neighbours?
I don't get it. I don't get it either. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm just going to go prospecting. I'm going down to Coles or I'm going
Yeah,
to Woolies.
absolutely.
That's it.
I'm
You've
badged every
earned
day.
that. You've earned that
Yeah,
reputation. Yeah. You've got you. Yeah.
every day. Wherever I go, I'm badged.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Unless I'm trying to go incognito, which doesn't work locally. I've got to get out of the area. Even I pop over to the beautiful Clare Valley for a meal or a wine, and I walk into the Hills Hotel, which is just beautiful meals and great people, and the publican will come straight up, Tim, just want to ask about, and we talk, and he will look at my wife Lisa and go, 10 minutes? She goes, five? Okay, 5 minutes. And we'll talk real estate for five,
Yeah.
and then that's it. You never discuss it again. But
You're gonna have to wear a face mask and a cap
yeah,
like the
I know.
famous people do,
Yeah.
like
I was in Port Lincoln on holidays for a week, and we got up early one morning, which is James Stacey country, and we've gone into a little cafe. We're sitting down having a breakfast, and
Hmm.
this lady's walked over and she said, "Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but will you be replying to my email?"
Oh, really?
Sorry, what? There's no badge, nothing on me. And she said, "You are Tim Hosking, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I emailed you last night." I said, "Yeah, having breakfast." And she went, "Sure." I said, "But I'll answer your email this morning." And she went, "Oh, thank you."
That's
That's the
so
reach of
fun.
social media. It's just,
That's so
yeah. But
fun.
my face is on everything, and you've seen that with all my
Yeah,
sold stuff. And
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So marketing, we'll have to do another podcast one day on marketing and all
mm,
that sort of thing as well. That's awesome.
yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you can think of about transitioning to another office? Like,
Yeah. So in terms of timing, you just got to go with what's going to work for you.
yes.
I think I didn't have a big gap between when I believed that I needed to make a change and when I made the change. It
Mhm.
would have only been maybe 3 months of discussions, and that was enough for me to know that the runs are on the board and I'm making the change.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think if you leave it a year or two before you make the change, you've just wasted
Yeah. A
time.
lot of money and time.
It's
Yeah.
time. Time is the biggest valuable asset we have. It's not the money, it's the time.
Yes.
Why? Yeah,
Yeah. Like beating your head up against a wall,
yeah,
Okay,
don't do it. Just
stop the
make the
pain.
change.
Come
Yeah,
over, absolutely.
yeah.
All right. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is client reviews. And as we
Mm,
said, putting the vendors first,
mm.
putting the buyers first in their way as well, to sort
Oh,
of
absolutely.
care of them, you know.
When you look through, I've got 401 reviews
Yeah.
on realestate.com.
Hmm.
um, on there, you can see that there are multiple buyers, many hundreds of buyers that are saying, just love the way Tim communicated. He was transparent. We felt that he was in our corner. Absolutely. I am in that corner. I want them to win.
Yes.
I want my vendor to know they've won, and I
Yes.
want the buyer to feel they've won.
Mm.
And there's a distinction.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want the buyer to have an experience where it's smooth, it's clean, it's professional,
Hmm.
that it's transparent.
Hmm.
I make it very clear that contracts have no bias.
Hmm.
Contracts are neutral. They are to represent both parties fairly.
Mm.
And I talk about fairness all the time and that sort of stuff with people because I want people to understand that I'm not leading them down the garden path. I'm not hiding anything.
Mm.
If there's something that needs to be known, people need to know it.
Mhm.
So that sort of side that builds rapport, and rapport with buyers is critical. In a market where if I go pre-COVID, okay, for me, I was carrying, well, as an example, July 2019, pre-COVID,
Mhm.
we had 1,600 properties in the marketplace in the small regional area that I work in. Okay.
Mhm.
We have 65 today.
Wow.
1,600,
Wow.
65.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a local agent through here when there was 1,600 on, he personally was carrying 400 properties
Wow.
personally. How
Wow.
do you communicate with 400?
No
Well, you
idea.
can't. You can't. And that was the reality. I regularly resold his listings
Mm,
6 months, 4 months, 4 years later
mm,
of just them rolling over onto a general agency, and he still has them listed. And then they'd meet with me and say, "Oh, we haven't heard from him for 3 years." And I said, "Well, we're doing a cancellation of agency. We're going forward and we're reselling and communication." Now, when COVID hit, I had 130 properties that I was carrying personally.
wow.
And that's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard yakka because I believe in communication.
Yes.
I don't communicate the same as city where people are expecting to hear from you every day. That's too much in the country.
Mm.
If they're like currently, if I just open up, I use Airtable religiously.
Mhm.
Um, I find that it gives me almost like a large whiteboard type spreadsheet where you can do Kanban boards in it as well, but this is just like a massive Excel spreadsheet that
I
just
like Trello.
flows.
Have you
Sorry.
Is that like Trello? Have you used Trello?
Yeah, yeah, no, I've used Trello, just
Is
not
that
the same as Trello.
Oh, okay. I'll
Let
have a
let
look.
me
Keyboard. Okay.
so it works from my phone onto my iPad onto my computer. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I just open this and I'll give you a distance view. Well, if I look on there now, I can see that right now I've got 6 properties live, 2 properties that have launched this week. I've got another 3 pending, and then I can go into my pipeline and I've got 142 that I've spoken to that are looking coming to market in the next 2 years.
That you're working
So
with. Some,
yeah,
yeah.
so if I
And
look
and
here,
yeah.
so this is my listings.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So that has all of them in there.
Oh
Where
yeah.
at the top there, you can see
Yep.
um, I can go across there all my check boxes of everything I
Oh,
need to do,
awesome. Oh, fantastic. So
everything.
that's your system.
That's my system. So when
Awesome.
I read across the top, just the
Photos
simple stuff,
done.
has what is there a driver date that I need to have something completed by?
Hmm.
Are they doing open inspections? Have I invoiced for the work? Have I got the CMA logged and saved?
Yeah.
Legals, are there all the legal names put in? Everything's on there. I can literally,
Settlement gift or whatever.
ev
Yeah.
yeah, but
So
that's
that's
on the listing side. There's a whole other side,
yeah.
which is um,
I love organized people like you.
sales. There's all the sales. So there's all the sales.
Awesome.
And you go down, and with all
Fantastic.
those pink ones are all
Yeah.
settled sales since I joined EXP.
Fantastic. That's
So,
so
so I used,
just like a pilot gets into a plane and they've got their
yeah.
checklist. You've got your
Well, I
checklist.
used to have a massive whiteboard,
Mm,
and the challenge with the whiteboard was that you were rubbing out and
yeah.
then rewriting them when there was a
Messy.
change. Now it just transitions between the
Yeah.
the pages.
Oh, I'm going to look at that for sure. Love it.
Mm.
Okay.
So that was introduced to me my past employer
Mm-hmm.
because that was being run in teams where there were 3, 5, 7 salespeople with volume.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stating that I'm struggling to handle 120, 130 properties because
Mm.
I haven't got my overview. My whiteboard's running out of space. And
Mm.
they said, "Well, maybe you could." And I said, "What? Maybe what? Don't hold out on me. What have you got? What can I use?"
Yeah.
And so they gave me a test run on it, and yeah, never looked back. So when I
Wow.
moved, I bought my own um, one and started using it straight away.
Yeah,
So,
right. So when do you have the mentality every day? What
mm,
property am I going to list today? You're looking through your pipeline all the time to go, which one can I move through the
mm,
pipeline? Is that kind of
mm.
how you think? Yeah.
Um, Look, that's a really interesting one. Because of the volume of people that come at me
Mm-hmm.
for appraisals.
Mm-hmm.
So if I, hold on a second, if I just look here, um, what have I got here on my calendar? Last
Appraisal
week.
today.
Yeah, last week. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 appraisals this week.
Yes.
That's just this week.
Perfect.
Um, 3 weeks ago, I did 12 appraisals for the week.
Awesome.
Because of the volume,
Mm.
it's more a case that I'm who's, the old saying, you look after the squeaky wheel,
Yes, yes.
right? If someone's yelling, I'm selling now.
Yeah.
I'm, I'm
Yeah.
helping them right now.
Mhm.
If someone's saying, like, so I've got to pace my work because it's only me.
Mm. Yeah.
So the reality for me is that, like the 2 that I launched on Monday, both of them have enough traction that one will sell this weekend. There's every chance the other will probably be early to mid next week. We'll negotiate on that one, but one of them will sell this weekend.
Mhm.
Now, back July 2019, my days on market were 125.
Mhm.
My average days between launch to contract now is 11.
Mm.
That's a vastly different scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't I can't work with the volume, even though I'm still working with volume. I
Mhm.
can't have all of them launching at the same time because
No,
I can't
you
do
can do
everything
it.
at
Yeah.
the same time.
Have you ever had a PA, or you just would prefer to do it all by yourself?
So I've got we had a PA of sorts at my past employer that did a volume of work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with EXP, the changeover meant that there is more work that I do on a per property basis, no
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Um, but the income per property
Yes.
dramatically different.
So
So
it's
you're doing slightly less volume, but you're getting paid exorbitantly better.
yeah.
The other side of the coin is that I've actually just engaged someone who's a professional in a different field, never worked in real estate,
Mm-hmm.
but is tech orientated, systems orientated, has
Good.
great she has great integrity,
Yeah.
trustworthy.
Oh,
That's for me, that's gold. I can train someone.
yeah.
So I've had her here. We've gone through some stuff. She's now working through all my past contracts. So I gave her a Dropbox with hundreds of contracts in. She's now pulling all the details out of all those contracts and loading them up into Agent Box for our changeover of our CRM so that all the correct details are in there so I can target correctly. She's also going back through the 4,500 buyer contacts that I've got and going through the most recents and setting them up with all the correct information. And so again, so that I can service my,
Nice.
uh,
Yeah.
because there was a slight loss of some, uh, I did get contacts
Mm-hmm.
from my past with the changeover,
Yeah.
but not with the integrity that I was hoping to get it. It was a bit skinny in information,
Yeah. Right.
um, but
But
that's the nature of the change.
yeah, exactly. And so, with your client reviews, so you only focus on realestate.com for your
Yeah,
review,
yeah, yeah.
not Google or
Because I don't want to ask it from here and from there and from there. I mean, these people out of the goodness of their heart,
yeah.
I want them just to tell me one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so I specified with realestate.com purely on the basis that, well, that's the big play. That's where everyone goes. Domain has a part to play for people. Some
Mm-hmm.
people love that format, but the vast majority of people are on the big juggernaut realestate.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they look at the agents. If they're going to be selling, they'll go there first to look as to, okay, what's in the market? Who are the agents? Click on you. Okay, what's your reviews? Oh, you've got this many? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you stand? So at the moment, and a lot of people don't realize that on realestate.com, if I pick my suburb, say 5558 as my postcode,
Mhm.
when I first click on it, it comes up with selling in 5558.
Mm.
You click on that and it comes up and it rates the agents working in the area. Now it
Oh,
comes up
I
with,
didn't know it did that.
yeah. So
Wow.
there's a Ray White agent first because he's
Yeah.
just sold more in the area,
Yeah.
but his reviews are sitting at 86. But
Yeah.
I'm second on the list. I've only got 37 in the area, but 70 in the region. He's got what, 53 in 12 months, and I've got 70 in 8 months.
Yeah.
But I've got 401
401.
reviews.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. So
What?
then that then rates people. You can go down, well, they've only got 54 reviews, 7 reviews, 81. You can go through and people hunt through that.
Yeah.
Now, what that gives to me is credibility.
Mm,
It
definitely.
shows that I play the long game. It's
Mm-hmm.
got comments in there from people about saying Tim partnered us. This is the third sale we've done with Tim.
Mm,
We bought from him. We've sold with him. We've bought with him again. We've just resold. We stay with Tim because of these things.
mm,
Talks about communication. Talks about ethics.
mm-hmm.
Talks about partnering with me over years to help me position my property ready for sale. I got him in 2 years ago, and he said, "Hey, if you do these things, this will work for you. Don't invest your money there. Do it here." And uh, I'm I got into I met with a gentleman. This is similar in a review basis. Okay, an elderly gentleman in Moonta. He describes himself as a recluse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's been here 20 years, but
Mm.
he knows no one. Okay. People know him, but he, in
Yeah.
his books, he knows no one.
Yeah.
He didn't know who to use for his real estate. So he's gone to the local supermarket, the Drake supermarket, and he looked for people who had full trolleys
Mm.
because he said if they've got full trolleys, they live here.
Okay. Yeah.
So because we have a lot of people who have holiday homes through the area. So he's gone up to 4 people and asked them for their thoughts on who they would use for a real estate agent. He then asked 6 different employees that are working through the shop and the girls at the checkout who they would use for real estate. Now he's telling me this, right? Because I'm sitting there. His first question was, Tim, do you know why you're here?
Yeah.
And I went, oh, that's a deep question. Wow, are we talking the big picture? And he went, oh, Tim, come on, mate. Just real estate. I went, okay. He said, you're the only agent that I'm inviting in. I said, well, thank you for that. That's very nice. And most of the time, that's how I operate. I'm very rarely against others because of the credibility I walk in with,
Yeah.
or reviews, or referrals. And I
Yeah.
said, so why am I? And he goes, well, I interviewed these people.
Mm.
I asked them about real estate. I got quite varied results. Your names were in there. I said, okay. And he goes, but then I asked the question, I've got a lot of work to be done with my property. I need someone who can guide me and work with me through the journey.
Mhm.
He said, 10 out of 10 gave me your name.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, he said, do you know them all? And I said, I don't know who you spoke to. I've got no idea.
Yeah.
But isn't it nice to be known that you'll do the journey with
Yeah.
someone, that you'll play the long game, that you're not going in there and going, hey, no, 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 you don't do any of that. We can just go to market. No, no, no. I
Yeah.
don't set the time for people. I'll give them my opinion,
Mhm.
but I work with people according to their needs, and I'll listen. Got to listen in real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, they were reviews. They were 10 real world reviews, not asked for through realestate.com, not public,
Yeah.
private reviews where someone said, I would use Tim.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
gold.
And like we were saying, people, you've got to operate in the area you live in, going to
Yes.
the shops and all that sort of thing. That's how
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get known
Why
and
why travel somewhere else? I
yeah.
do I do a little bit of work where I'll travel
Mm.
half an hour, 45 minutes away from where I live. But
Yeah.
it's in a similar region, but it's for specific clients.
Yeah.
I prefer to stay within the 3 to 6 towns which are in my little region that I work in.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing with reviews, we I do a lot of phone calls. Do a lot of face to face with clients,
Mhm.
but I also do a lot of texting. Well, I constantly updating people by text.
Mm.
The convenience of text is, it's
Oh,
sensational
mm.
because they'll read it at their time. they'll act on it in their time. If there's something that's urgent, I'll text that it's urgent and I'll request a reply. But otherwise, I send it with no preconceived ideas as to how quick they're going to reply. Often it's just an update. Hey, this has happened, that's happened. We're at this point, we're at that point. And I'll constantly get messages back saying, hey, thanks so much. Oh, great. And that's where you get reviews of people saying, constantly kept us up to date.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't mean you've got to pick up the phone and have a half-hour discussion about it. Brief, give them an update. But if you're updating them constantly, you're building upon the story. Okay. So then when I get to the end of a sales process and I'm asking for a review, I think the timing for asking for the review is important.
Yes.
Okay.
The
You've just sold the property.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right time for the review? You've just settled the property. Is that the time for the review? When is it that a vendor is most excited?
Yeah.
The sold sticker's gone up.
Yeah.
When is a purchaser? Yes, on settlement day. That's a different thing again. I handle that a little bit differently. But on the day that the sold sticker is up, that's the day after I've taken the photographs, after I've sent that through to them, when there's rejoicing, when everything's working, that's when I send the review.
Yes.
Okay. And it's the review is so simple, and I have it sitting on my phone here, ready to send. And it just says, if I'm still saying Mrs. Brown at the end of a sale period, unless they're my senior, I'm still a Mr. and Mrs. I get told off and I say, no, Mrs. Brown was my mum. That's not me. Okay. And I'll get that regularly. And or I use sir and ma'am, right? I'm old school. Yes, I'm getting older. I'm still very, very much young at heart, but I also believe that the respect is earned, and that's by giving people the respect for who they are in the years that they've been here. Okay. So but in this text, after a full sale period, I should have earned the right to call them, hi, Lisa. Hi, Lisa, could you please help me by clicking on the link below? Here you can rate and provide a review about my work with you. This is an important online area for me. Suddenly something's about me. The whole process, the whole sale is completely about them. This is the very first time I've asked for something for me. This is an important online area for me that both future sellers and buyers will look at. It's got the link to the REA to me, then to put their review in. Your name and property address will not be provided online. I make that clear. I don't want a link going back to them where they can go, oh, gee, everyone knows I've said this about you. I don't want any of that. That way they can write freely knowing they're not going to be identified. Thank you, Tim. Not Tim EXP, Tim Real Estate, Tim. No, just Tim. Because if I'm not Tim to them by that stage, I'm sorry, I've missed the mark.
Yeah, exactly.
We have journeyed through one of their most emotional periods. We've got to have trust. We've got to have rapport. We need to be at that point. By the time I'm shaking the hands and we're putting the sold sticker on, we should be there. And then I can send that in good faith, knowing that it'll be received in like I got one, I think my very last one that comes up, it just says 5 stars, good. Good. I love it. Now, knowing that guy, that the fact that he even gave me 5 stars and gave me a review is unbelievable, because I've sold 4 properties for him.
Oh, that's be good. Yeah.
4 in the last 20 years, and he gives me good. Now, I was in his place yesterday in the Wallaroo Marina. It's a mid-million-dollar home. The views are extraordinary. They're probably 4 months from it going online. His wife's also given me a review. Hers has got all this information. We've done this with Tim, and he's done this for us and everything else. But his was good. Now, he's never, ever given me a review before. He just says, babe, you take care of that. And she does. But this time he felt, I've got to say something.
I've got to do it.
Good. So I think that's a gem, because it's important to get the different shades of grey. If they're all just glowing, is that real?
Yeah.
You've got to let them put up with, and I never prompt, I never suggest, let them write what they want to write.
Exactly. Do you know, like I've written a few books, right? And I've got one called Secret Agents. And one of
Yep.
the reviews that went onto the website there, somebody gave me a 4-star review, right? And said, because the book should have been longer. They enjoyed it that much. It should have been longer. So they
Oh
only
my
gave me a
gosh.
4-star review. And I'm like, you're saying it's really good, but it should have been longer. But anyway, people are
I've
funny.
got a similar one. I settled a property that would be 4 weeks ago, and they gave me a four star.
Yeah.
And I thought, what did I miss?
Yeah.
And so I gave him a call and I said, you can't change. I'm just curious. What was the star that I missed? He
Yeah.
said, I'm not sure that you earned your money. I went, oh, okay. He got 80,000 above what he wanted. We had 15 offers on his property. I got his property under contract in 6 days and settled within a month, and I didn't earn my money
Isn't it
because it
funny
should have
how
been
they do that?
longer. I should have done more work. So he said, I couldn't quite make peace with giving you 5.
Isn't that
Although
funny how people, yeah,
they
hard
got to work through
market.
the,
Yeah.
it's their rating, their review.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what you want. You
Yeah.
want that honesty. And
Yeah.
so I get people that occasionally will contact me
Mm.
and they've read reviews.
Mm.
One lady said, I've read your reviews. I went, all of them. She went, 325 of them. I went,
Mm.
right. Okay. She goes, do you have sales stuff that you want to talk through? I said, no, I'm not salesy. I said, I want to explain the process we're going to go through.
Mm.
She goes, right, because if there's any salesy stuff, can I just say you've already got the work?
Mm.
I just want to know how we're going to do it.
Mm.
Okay,
That's
there's
all.
credibility.
Yeah.
And I hear that a lot from people. I get it from buyers.
Mm.
There's a gentleman that offered on a property here in Moonta Bay recently, just said, I've been online, seen how you work. He said, I trust your process will work for me.
Mm.
Now, he didn't get the property, but when I gave him a call and said, I'm sorry, but they've gone with the other buyer, he said, thank you so much. He said, I know that everything was handled correctly
That's awesome.
because of the reviews.
Yeah. See, I like to read reviews because you pick up things that you wouldn't have even known. You know, you get an education with reviews. People will say
Yeah,
something and then you go, oh, I didn't realize that was part of that or something. So, there are people that really like to read that to get a
yeah,
understanding and
yeah.
more depth about you.
Here's a question. If you miss out on a property,
Hmm.
do you call them
What do you
a
mean?
prospective vendor? If you've been in for an
Oh, yeah,
appraisal,
yeah, 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 for
you
sure.
call. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And if I call, the first thing out of my mouth is I wish them well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope everything goes really well with the agent that you've chosen. I
Yeah.
don't ask who the agent is because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I never criticize, never complain. I'm occasional. I don't get everything I praise,
Yeah.
but I get well more than my share than I would ever expect. So I'm grateful.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when I miss on one, and specifically if I get one where I think I connected, could it be, is it price? Is it purely price?
Hmm.
Because I don't think anyone should lose a property on price.
Hmm.
That should never be
No.
in the equation. But
Yeah.
some people buy listings and well, I don't. I refuse to get into that world.
Yeah.
But I always call and I always wish them well. But I always want to listen as to what was it. And I actually had one in Port Hughes. He said he by text just said, "Mate, I've gone with the other guy,"
Hmm.
and I instantly rang him
Hmm.
and I said, I wish you well with your choice, whatever it is that you've made." And he said, "Thanks, Tim." He said, "By far, you're the most professional agent out of everyone we met." He
Hmm.
said, "Love to have gone with you." I
Hmm.
said, "Have you signed?" He
Hmm.
said, "No, I haven't."
Hmm.
I said, "What was it?" He said, "Oh, it was this bit of the process of yours that we didn't quite sit with us.
Hmm.
So we're going to go with someone that really he didn't have much of a process, but we thought it was similar sort of." And I went, "Hold on, let's just go back. What didn't you like?"
Hmm.
"I didn't like this and this." I said, "Okay, no problem." He goes, "Oh, so you're okay with that?" I said, "We don't have to go. Well, what are you expecting? What are you wanting?" I
Hmm.
thought I'd heard what he'd wanted,
Hmm.
but I'd misheard.
Hmm.
See, I don't mind being schooled. I don't mind being wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But
Exactly.
let's work with it. And so I end up getting the listing.
Yeah.
and we sold.
I think, yeah, you've always got to ring and see if you lose it, and as you did, you hadn't lost it then, so you saved it, but also why people list with you as well. Like I think it's just good to know. I think it's good to know where they found you. You know, if somebody's
Oh, I'm
with you,
saying,
whether it's
yeah, yeah.
from the reviews or from word of mouth or from someone, you can thank them. I think it's always good to have all those stats. But
I
I think,
give referral gifts every year.
oh yeah,
I make a list up of everyone that's referred me that I've been able to get the name of who it was. And
perfect.
then as it gets towards Christmas, we do a run of wine out or gift baskets. We did, what we order 62
That's
gift baskets prior
awesome.
to Christmas last year. So
That's-
early December, which was actually extremely hard because um, um, early December I lost my son.
Mm.
And so I could give it out this year. So
Oh,
my two cherished neighbours in the street next to me here,
oh,
they came and collected all the baskets and they distributed all the baskets that had all their names and everything written, addresses. So they gave all the baskets out.
oh, Tim, that was just, yeah, I can't believe what you guys went through. And
Ah,
yeah, my heart goes out to you
yeah,
all the time, all the time. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So life's challenging, but it also
Yeah.
there's I sat with so if I go back, what would that be now? 13 years ago, my first wife walked out, and unfortunately, she had a mental breakdown, left the family, and I raised my kids. But
Mm.
unfortunately, they went through bankruptcy through the process, lost our house, lost all our assets, we were bust at the end of the day. And so we moved into a little rental with the kids, and you shoulder up and you go forward again. Um, in January, I married, remarried the love of my life, Lisa. We've been together 10 years in 3 days' time.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Happy anniversary.
yeah, thank you. And but I sat with a couple that would be 6, 7 years ago in Port Hughes, and where I arrived and there was a big pile of books from agents with all their thoughts and processes. And I think damage, yes, it gives you scars, but it gives you wisdom. You learn things from hardship, and what you want to learn is from others. You don't want to necessarily go through it all yourself.
Oh,
But
exactly.
I'm sitting with this couple, and they're lovely people, and I've just said, "Look, can I just feel that the stuff you've said, though real, you feel that it is that you've delivered me the message you want to give me?" I said, "But I don't feel that you've told me what's going on."
Mm.
And he said, "Well, what else are you saying?" And he was agitated, and she was very, very quiet and sweet. And I just said, "Look, how long is it going to be before you lose your house?" And he punched the table and got up and rant and rave, and she just burst into tears because it was real, it was true. And I just said, "Look, I've been there. I lost my house. I lost everything." I said, "How many letters have you received?" And they said, "Well, we've received the first one." I said, "That's okay. You've got 4 more yet. You've got time." They went, "What?" No, no, no. The letter came. I said, I've had the 5 letters. I know what it's like. I didn't listen to my agent. But I was a broken person at the time. Um, I think it's important that we sit down and discuss this. And he's already gone out for a cigarette, and she just said, "Oh, look, he won't talk." I said, "We need to talk, and we need to talk now so we can establish how to go forward." So she went out and got him, and he came in. I said, "Let me just paint you a small picture of my journey." And I gave him my journey, and they understood then. And I said, "So what you need to do is you need to put this in the hands of an agent." They said, "That doesn't make sense." I said, "It'll buy you time with the bank."
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, You've lost your job. You've lost your job. You can both work.
Yeah.
Get work.
Yeah.
Start satisfying the needs. Get yourself on the hardship program." "Oh, they won't accept us." I said, "Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Absolutely, they will." And so I taught them through the process. Well, they're still living in that home today.
Oh, wow.
I never sold the home.
Wow.
It's not about selling homes.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
about working with people.
Exactly. Wow, you're
Yep.
incredible, Tim. Honestly, incredible. The things that you have had to go through and how you've got through them, incredible. honestly, amazing. Okay, so the other things that
Yep.
from us talking today, you
Yep.
are amazing at obviously resilience, time management, systems. You've just kind of, pulled everything together, haven't you?
I
And
think one of the keys, there was a meeting that was held some years ago, and this was at Harris, and a young fellow, a young buck, asked Phil Harris a question,
Mhm.
and he's looking around the room for who to answer this question, and he looked at me, and I'm sitting in the front row, and he said, "Tim, can you catch up with the young fella after the meeting?" So after the meeting, I stood up. I didn't see who it was, and I looked around the room. No one's looking at me, so okay, doesn't need the answer. So I started walking down the corridor, and then I heard this voice calling my name. I've turned around, and there's this young fella and three more experienced agents working behind him. And he said, "Tim, the question I asked," I said, "Yeah, please," because I couldn't hear it. He said, I need to be able to achieve these numbers, because I need to, I want to change my car over. I want to buy that watch. And it was all material.
Mm.
And you know where I'm going with this.
Mm.
Okay. And he said, and I said, right. So it's all about your numbers. And he goes, of course it is. I went, right. Probably what you'll need to do at some point, you'll get enough wisdom and time. I said, because you can't go from go to hero in short time in real estate. Really, you've got to constantly play the long game, because it's not actually at all ever about you. It's
And you
completely and
help.
utterly about the client. I
Yeah.
said, so when you can remove your head from where it's sitting and place it to where it needs to be, I
Mhm.
said, the income you can generate at that point is extraordinary. But when you get to that point, you'll discover that the day of handing over a set of keys to a family who's battled their whole life to get to this point is
Mhm.
worth way more than the comms on that property.
Yeah.
And he patted me on the shoulder and said, "Yeah, thanks, Tim. I didn't really think you'd give me the right answer." And he walked off. And the other three that were there walked up and said, "That was exactly bang on. That's what he should have heard." But he's not in a headset where he can hear it.
Nice.
Now, there's a property in North Moonta. They wrote a review years ago, and I kept my reviews when I moved.
Mm. Yes.
That was a clincher for me, because I really wanted my reviews.
Yes.
I didn't keep the results
Mm-hmm.
online. They all transitioned to other agents.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Right.
So if you went online, everything that I'd sold was sold by other agents. So I had nothing on there, but I
Wow.
kept all my reviews, and I left with 270 or yeah, plenty.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So when this person wrote on the review, um, when we met Tim, he introduced us to this property, and we felt the warmth of Tim and the warmth of the property. It has become our castle, and we cherish it every day. They
Wow.
moved into an absolute donger, a shocker. It was, I would walk in the front door, and I was holding my breath to get out the back door because of the smell and everything. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was their castle.
Mm.
Now, they paid, might have been 140,000 for that house.
Mhm.
At the same time, I sold another property down in the Bay for 1.3 or 4 million. We need to become chameleons.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
need to talk to people, and I don't mean two-faced,
Mm.
that because I don't mean that at all. I'm meaning that we need to relate and learn the skill sets, the people skills, to work with people where they're at.
Adapt. Yeah.
There's a just to add another string to the bow. Um, I ran a photography business while still working real estate.
Mm.
When I first moved back here, did 144 weddings over a 4-year period while still doing real estate. because I needed income. There was the market wasn't roaring back there. Everyone was carrying stock because you didn't know when the next sale would be. I pastored churches for 7 years during my time, and still working as a real estate agent. The community being of service. Well, there's a scripture in the Bible that actually says, I will become all things to all men. When I'm dealing with a rich man, I will deal with him at the level that he needs to be taught to. But when I'm talking to a poor person, I will become like them. Well, see, that's not being two-faced. That's being relatable and understanding and journeying with the people where they're at. You can't talk to people at levels where they're at. Well, you're not going to survive in real estate.
That's right. No, adapting, isn't it? Yeah.
Adaptability. That's such a key.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tim. That was
pleasure.
Amazing. And I will put this everywhere and put all your details. And if anybody wants to contact you either about leaving where they
very
are
welcome.
and transitioning over to EXP or any advice, I'll put your details.
Make the change. Don't delay, make the change.
Oh, exactly.
It's very good on the other side.
Yeah, it sure is. Best model in the world. Thank you so much, Tim, for your time.
Pleasure.
We appreciate it. Thanks heaps.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a question about real estate, then please join the group on Facebook, also called Let's Talk About Real Estate. For those of you who are interested in EXP, please join us at 10 a.m. Brisbane time every Wednesday morning for EXP Explained. Thank you again for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and see you next week.